Welcome to Convicted Patriot Broadcast, your source for real information with no punches held and no apologies issued. See, it's all connected. Right and left. It's an illusion.
See, there's so much, this rabbit hole goes so deep that it's going to take you forever to catch up.
And this is, quite frankly,
a war for our very souls.
I want us all to pray for our country in the direction we are headed. God bless you all, and God bless America. And God bless America. Welcome to Convicted Patriot, your source for unapologetic, common sense, conservative values. I am Christian Russ, your host, and today is the 25th of May, 2026. And yes, it has been a week or so since I have been up here because my wife and I just opened up a new business that handles 3 different services. It's been a very, very, very busy first week, and God willing, it will continue to stay busy and grow. And, speaking on the business, and now that I'm back on the show right now, currently, I would like to bring this up and just give a shout out, man. I just did a quote, for a job to a homeowner that actually watches my show. And on my way out the door, she gave me that one little push that sometimes we all need. I've been so busy with this new business and trying to make ends meet financially. It's a scary thing that I haven't really carved enough time out for this hobby of mine. And, I guess you would say that it's been on the back burner of my priorities. But walking out of her house this morning after a great conversation and a good business agreement, she reminded me that everything that she thinks or wants to say, that I'm over here saying it. I'm actually taking the courage to just spew out facts and differentiate right from wrong. North is always going to be north. And speaking how I feel, how apparently a giant chunk of my demographic feels. She's not the first person that has told me this. Of course, there are people closer to my age that have told me this, and I know that with age comes a little bit more of a spunk. But apparently, this is deep within my culture. People are getting tired of being lied to, of being stepped on being taken for granted. People are getting tired of looking towards the future and seeing nothing but shackles for their young family members that are growing into adults today, but have no idea how they're going to make ends meet because things just keep getting worse. Anyway, it is because of people like that take their time to let me know we are listening and you're speaking how we feel. That is what pushes me to continue this. But I will tell you that I am saddened by the congressional race that took place last week. More so, saddened by the amount of people that devour the slop that's passed out to them by our mainstream media. And our social media algorithms at that. Unfortunately, it's the boomers, God bless them. My grandmothers are both alive and well, and they're both boomers, and this is not a monolith. It doesn't apply to you all. But unfortunately, it is the boomer generation that takes the brunt of the brainwashing because they've depended on the same media outlets their entire lives for news. And you're not going to convince them that this whole time it has been a CIA operation that connects to Project Mockingbird. If they even knew what Project Mockingbird was, which I doubt that many do. But, if they do take the time to look it up and see that the CIA has been feeding mainstream media outlets, late night comics and things like that, scripts, they got to stick to it in a roundabout way. You have to say these lines. You ever notice how you turn it on MSNBC or CNN or ABC or NBC or Fox, and it might not be word for word verbatim the same story, but there will be them 2 sentences somewhere in there, those same 2 sentences repeated on every single news outlet. Maybe it's a phrase, a catchword, a buzzword, so they say, like insurrection, things like that. And so they would say, if they looked it up, well, our government said they stopped doing this program decades ago, and they're going to take that to the bank because once you have your hooks in everybody and you can basically control them by the information you feed them, of course you would relinquish that power. Of course. Of course. Then the handful of them that branched out to social media, mostly Facebook in that generation, have been fooled by reels and influencers that get paid to stick to a script and seem independent of any bias or loyalty to a system. But Thomas Massie, man, he has been painted out to be a rhino liberal kook for a very long time. And the reality is, when you actually go in and check his voting record, he is rated one of the most conservative members of Congress, period. On 3 different conservative scoring sites, such as Freedom Index, Conservative Review, and the Club for Growth, I believe, he is ranked at 93, 96, and 99% conservative voting record, meaning that percentage of the time he voted with the Republican Party. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, that roughly 70% of the GOP doesn't even have a rating above 80% on all of those same sites, meaning that Massie was more conservative and loyal to his party than 70% of the Republicans in Congress. So I'm not sure what exactly makes any of you think that he is a rhino. It's simply because he can be liberal-minded, yet always loyal to the Constitution and the rights of the American people. Let me just give you a few examples, a few facts of what Thomas Massie voted for and stood on. I suppose the most notable thing was his giant push for government transparency by forcing the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. And yes, that was bipartisan. It was a bipartisan effort with Ro Khanna. And unfortunately, there are so many people blinded by party loyalty that they immediately disliked him for this simply because he crossed the aisle to make it happen. But since when was bipartisan such a ugly word? Why is it an ugly thing to happen? Being that Massie lives in a log cabin that he built himself, with a whole system he has set up to live off-grid, farm and all, he personally has a soft spot for farmers, and that's why he championed the Prime Act that helped small farmers and local butchers sell their product across state lines by backing the federal government's restrictions and red tape up. In 2014, he passed a major amendment banning warrantless backdoor NSA searches of Americans, of course, data that had been collected under foreign surveillance programs. Kinda sounds like what they're going to do with the FISA 702 that many of you don't quite comprehend. Sure, it's just for the military and it's just for foreign affairs. It has nothing to do with Americans. Right. That's why Thomas Massie tried to add an amendment to that bill so they couldn't back search any of these people in foreign countries that they were looking at that are tied to any American. Therefore, they have free reign on the American that they supposedly found ties to a foreign national. Massie tried to stop that because, once again, that would be a warrantless search of an American citizen, not to mention the fact that CIA is supposed to operate overseas, not on domestic soil. See, Massie has always wanted our government to respect the rights of the private citizens. And more than once, man, he's introduced legislation that didn't pass, granted, but it was enacted to protect us. Like the Surveillance State Repeal Act. That was actually meant to gut the Patriot Act and the FISA expansions. We wouldn't be where we are today. He's always kept pressure on the intelligence agency's integrity, if they even know what that means. Of course, there are the hard right-wingers, so many hard right-wingers, that gave him the name, or nickname, I suppose, Mr. No. Because he consistently put, check this out, he consistently put fiscal restraint, anti-interventionism, and civil liberties over his party's loyalty. I mean, American people or my party? American people or my party? And he has also opposed massive spending bills, including COVID relief packages, ominous bills, and Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, arguing that they exploded the national debt. Because they exploded the national debt. And anyone else that actually took the time to read any of those would see that it was just a fact that he was arguing. Undisputable. He has always voted against foreign aid to every country because I think it's quite clear that with the many issues we have here at home, that money could fix, coupled with the ever-growing national debt, where our interest payments alone are soon going to be unable to be met, that it only makes sense that we put our focus on America first. His party didn't like this because the Republicans in general wanted to aid Israel, sanction packages, and interventions in places like Iran, Syria, and Venezuela. And on that note, Massey even pushed war power resolutions to limit presidents starting conflicts without Congress permission. At the end of the day, he's a constitutionalist that actually treats the document like it limits government's power, even when it's inconvenient for the Republicans. And the funny thing is, the only thing he's ever disagreed with for the most part is wars, warrantless searches on Americans, and bankrupting the country. Now, this alone isn't what makes me sad, of course. I do want an American first man in office, someone with integrity that can't be bought off. But the main thing that's also frightening is the show of power that we just seen from a foreign lobby that hasn't even had to register as a foreign lobby. AIPAC even posted on X after this race about how happy they were to contribute to the winning of 2 pro-Israel candidates over 2 outspoken detractors, which they were referring to Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Can we for a second, just a second, hear me out, can we just for a second imagine if China-aligned group said the same thing about installing more pro-China voices in our American Congress? I hope it's clear to all that the influence of this organization is tremendous. The race in Kentucky involves someone that most haven't even heard of, Ed Galbraith, who refused to debate Massey at every single opportunity. Not once did he try to take the stage with this man and to litigate his beliefs. And yet he still won. Over 90% of his money came from foreign investors, Jewish billionaires that have never stepped foot in nor could care less about Kentucky. It's sad when in the United States, the politician with the most money behind them wins 94% of the time, no matter the election or what's at stake. Leave it to Kamala and the Democrats to screw up 2024 and completely be a statistical blunder on that note. But this Ed guy that won, in a way, is just another Kamala. Couldn't string together a coherent sentence, much less a thought. What we witnessed was what we witnessed was a not so subtle takeover of another American election. All of you that soak up the mainstream government slop, please explain to me why. Why? After they lied to you about COVID and its origins, about the safety and efficiency of the COVID vaccines, about Hunter Biden's laptop, about Biden's mental decline and the Burisma board, and about the January 6th and the pipe bombers, and I mean that's just like off the top of my head some things that have been proven in the last 5 years alone. I can't even begin to explain the enigma behind Thomas Crooks and Ryan Routh that just so happened to both be in the same BlackRock commercial, Larry Fink, and both took shots at Trump, literally. Then poof, nothing is heard about it. Not anymore, and the administration isn't digging, nor is the FBI. Crooks' apartment was scrubbed so clean, it didn't even have silverware, just like the murder scene on the roof was scrubbed clean by the feds before forensics could get there. Don't even get me started on Kirk murder. How the very same night, I believe it was within 24 hours, a concrete slab was poured over the scene of the crime, and the fall guy just so happens to check every single box that your common bigoted redneck would love to see fry and ask no more questions about. And Charlie Kirk is responsible damn near single-handedly for getting the president, the youth vote, and all of his cabinet support from the youth. Kirk pushed for Patel, even had him on his show. He pushed for Vance from the get-go and was almost in tears when Trump won in 2024. He felt like his mission was that much further along. Yet here we are, not even a year later, and nothing is happening about it. No more digging. All conclusions have been aimed at Tyler Robinson. And, I'll be shocked if he even makes it to his trial date. Patel has shown us just how hard he will fight for justice and moral truth with the Epstein case alone. He claimed no conspiracy and no partners outside of Maxwell, and he claimed that Epstein, without a doubt, took himself out. Someone with more blackmail on more powerful people than anyone on the planet, more than likely, just threw his hands up and said they couldn't take it, and they just had to push that button. Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about something that's going to make some people uneasy, which is kind of what I do. The data centers that are popping up all over the United States, taking up acres on acres of farmland, and using so many natural resources, such as illegally using public water supplies without payment, while locals aren't getting any water. That happened just in Florida last week. It was reported that a small town wasn't even getting water to their population because a nearby new data center had snatched up 30 million gallons without permission or payment. While a ton of cash is being handed out to the people for their land so that these data centers can be built in the first place, I want you all to understand what is actually going on. See, we are headed to a complete and total surveilled police state. Do your research on Palantir and Peter Thiel. Compare that with what China's been going through for over a decade now with their digital credit score system. It's been advertised over and over and over right here in our faces about this new AI boom and the sophistication of the software and its capabilities. Once this whole grid is up and running, hand in hand with all the flock cameras that America has been mass producing and throwing up on every street corner in American cities, or at least some variety of the flock camera system, there will be no way for anyone to hide, cover your tracks. And by hide, I don't mean because you did anything wrong, but maybe you simply just don't want to be tracked every single step you take or place you visit or what you buy or who you speak to or have relationships with. But your phone's already doing that. It's already providing them all of that data. And that data gets stored at these massive data centers. And if for any reason they ever need you to find, if they need to find you or frame you because you pissed off the wrong person in power, maybe exposed some corruption, had an affair with their wife, whatever the case may be, then they will come and they will find you. And digital currency is the next step to completely control the population. And that's because the government will have complete access to all of your money, which I'm sure you won't be able to hoard anymore. They don't want you to have a lot of resources, and they can freeze your money or simply take it away when they feel like you deserve it. Let's not forget the new 2027 vehicles that are going to be ran off AI systems that won't even allow your car to crank without scanning your eyes and determining that you're capable of driving it. Whatever that is, concluded from, drugs or alcohol, maybe lack of sleep, whatever they got to do to determine that. We are headed very rapidly into a world of digital imprisonment, and notice how all of the tech oligarchs are always surrounding whoever is in charge. They went for Trump to Biden, and now back to Trump. They have more control over what happens to us than you even realize, because they're the ones designing the grid for the world powers. You remember that array of satellites that we funded in the infrastructure and blueprint behind the One Big Beautiful Bill was passed? It was called the Golden Dome. Do you honestly believe that it was made for the sole purpose to protect America? Could it possibly couple, with the 24/7 eyes in the sky? And to keep us busy, never focusing on what matters, like the fact that the U.S. government has went on record now saying they will not investigate or prosecute anyone that is in the Epstein files for lack of evidence, of course. Or the fact that oil, along with every other commodity that the American people need, is only going up and up and up in price over a war that is being fought on behalf of a foreign nation that has used us to their benefit since their inception by European Jewish bankers with the last name Rothschild via the Balfour Declaration of 1917. They are even trying to throw us off with the admission of UFO information that has been classified for 80 years in some cases. This all just goes to show us that there is a game plan that was formulated only God knows how long ago, and that they are going to execute it by any means necessary. I really, really believe that Trump was going to come in and drain the swamp, tear the system down, until he merged with the system and went completely off course. I'm not saying that he can't cut the shit and just get back on track, because I believe that he can, and I believe that he has it in him to do so. But something has happened in the last year to the point where I can only conclude that they either have something on him or his children. I believe he's a good father and grandfather. He's human. Or they showed him through various different methods how he can comply or be snuffed out. Let's not forget that golden pager he received. Let's not forget how Thomas Crooks went away, or how the investigation into Charlie Kirk has been given minimal effort, gotten nowhere in the first 2 weeks of information. That first 2 weeks of information, they're still hanging on to it. There's nothing else to find here. There is a collective, ladies and gentlemen, of powerful people that have control of how things go down. And I think it's pretty obvious at this point that the President of the United States isn't at the top of the list. And please believe that it has nothing to do with it being Donald Trump. It wouldn't matter, and it's never mattered who fills that seat. You play the part, and if you do it well, then no one will know that you're under the thumb of a total separate power structure. Ladies and gentlemen, there are people that won't be saved, and we're going to have to accept that. The ones that we know we can get to, do all you can to get to them. But the ones that you know are a lost cause, save your energy, because I've wasted so much of mine. God bless you all, and God bless America.